All right, I think it's 7 o'clock. We will get started this evening. I think the first thing we need is a motion to return to open session, reconvene open session. As soon as we do the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, now do we have a motion to reconvene? Oh, we're already got, great. Very good, we're ready to go. So before we get into the meat of the agenda, I do want to just introduce a few people who are new tonight. We're kicking off a new fiscal year for the district and have some new faces around the table. Jeremy Tucker, many of you may have seen him in the district but at previous meetings, but as of this meeting, it's his first official board responsibility. And glad to have you join as the superintendent here at Liberty Public Schools. Going around the room, we also have Steve Anderson, who has joined us as the Chief Operations Officer as of today. So thank you for showing up at this meeting late on your first day. We also have a couple of faces over on the far side of the room. Jennifer Quorum is the Director of Elementary Education, and Cindy Sullivan has taken on new responsibilities within the district as the Director of Finance. So welcome to the team in a new capacity. All right, anyone I missed? So we usually kick off our meetings with the really fun stuff, and we have Honoring Excellence, and Dallas is going to share one of our great students here with us tonight.
Good to see everyone tonight. Hope everyone's having a good summer. At this time, I want to introduce to everyone and call to the podium to stand next to me for a moment, Miss Haley Brown. You may have read a few things, not only in recent months, but in recent years about Haley. We've had her in the boardroom for Honoring Excellence previously. She is an awesome representation of Liberty Public Schools, to say the very least. We're going to recognize her tonight, though, for her recent third-place finish in expository speaking at the 2014 Speech and Debate National Tournament that was held in Overland Park last month. Haley was also a 4-year member of the Liberty High Speech and Debate team and was a 2-time national qualifier. While her recent accomplishments are quite impressive, this is just icing on the cake of an amazing high school career, and I have some of her other achievements, and it is literally a laundry list during her time at Liberty High School, including 4.0, valedictorian, National Merit Scholar finalist. May have read about her success with the National History Day competition, placing 6th in the nation. I actually just found out that her work is on display in New Orleans at the World War II Museum. I was in New Orleans yesterday. Thought I'd throw that in. The Model United Nations, Model UN, she was selected as an outstanding delegate at the National Model United Nations Conference in Chicago, and I think we recognized her actually for that achievement over the course of the last few years. And as I mentioned, just unbelievable, her involvement and her successes at Liberty High School. I know that she would like me to introduce some individuals that were very instrumental in her success, and they're here in the room tonight. We have Mr. Tim Baldwin, the debate coach, in the back of the room, Mr. Mick Turpin, the forensics coach. There's Mr. Turpin. We also have Aaron Money, Director of Fine Arts, in the back. Always appreciate his support. And then Dr. April Adams, the Liberty High School principal, also so kind to join us this evening. Boy, these are always bittersweet recognitions, especially when these young people are leaving us and heading to college. Haley is going to be enrolling in the University of Southern California in Los Angeles in just about a month. So I know Mom, the nest is going to be bare. She's maybe struggling with that a little bit. Michelle, she's a counselor over at Lillian Schumacher. And I just wanted to also take a moment just to thank both Ward and Michelle. We talk about all the time how important parents are in the success of students, and you talk about two great examples of that right here next to or in front of us here this evening. So I also, before I conclude, wanted to add, when I introduced the coaches, that this team had tremendous success as they were top 10 in the rankings during the regular season. Also at the national competition, they finished as one of the top 40 schools in Overland Park. So tremendous job. Hats off to the coaching staff as well. So at this time, Haley, I will present you probably your final Honoring Excellence Award. But be sure to stay in touch, and we would love to share your future successes, which I know you will have many more to come. So let's give a big round of applause for Haley.
Dallas, don't preclude the possibility that she may be on staff here at some point.
That would be a good thing. Absolutely. Have a great night.
Thank you. We will in a minute take a brief break to personally congratulate Haley on her success. But if there are any folks that want to speak during the public comment session, there are blue cards outside the door. And if you fill one of those out and get it to us before we get back in a few minutes, then that'll help us. But let's take about 5 minutes and give a personal thank you for the great work she's done for our community. Let's reconvene. The next item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda for this evening. And we do have Charlene Armitage has joined us via phone as well. So do we have a motion?
About the consent agenda.
I move the board. I'm sorry?
There's no thing that you read about the consent agenda.
We are on the approval
Oh,
of
sorry.
the agenda, but yes, there should. I hope I do that too.
Sorry.
There
Skipping
will.
ahead. Sorry. Sorry.
I move the board approve the agenda as presented.
Is there a second?
Second. Oh, yes.
If there's no discussion, we call the vote.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries.
Did anyone want to speak during public comment? Okay, if not, the next item is the committee and organization reports. Do we have any committee and organization reports this evening?
We didn't have any scheduled, so.
No scheduled
Yeah.
meetings. Okay. So now we will approve the minutes from the previous meeting. And, oh, that's the next item. The motion there is I move the board approve, oh, sorry, I'm jumping ahead one. So do we have a motion to approve the minutes? It's in consent agenda. Got it. Okay, so 3.01 is the minutes, and we have items 301 through 604, which are on the consent agenda. And our adopted rules of parliamentary procedure, Robert's rules, provide for a consent agenda listing several items for approval of the board by a single motion. Most of the items listed under the consent agenda have gone through board subcommittee review and recommendation. Documentation concerning these items has been provided to all board members and the public in advance to assure an extensive and thorough review. Items may be removed from the consent agenda at the request of any board member. So do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda items 3.01 through 6.04?
So moved. Second.
And if there's no discussion,
All those in favor?
aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
So that takes us through to board policy updates. Jeremy?
7.01 is policy revisions, and as you'll recall, earlier in the spring, we presented several policy updates as far as board policy updates, and those are included in your packet this evening. Policy ACF, Prohibition Against Discrimination, Harassment, and Retaliation. Policy EF, in respect to food service management. EFB is free and reduced price food and services. Those are presented this evening for second reading. We've not received any additional feedback or comments, so we just present those this evening for your consideration.
If there's no discussion then, or questions for the administration, do I have a motion to approve policies A, C, E, F, EFB on second read?
So moved.
Second.
All right, thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, from the last meeting, we had, before the meeting, we had interviews with the candidates for the Audit and Finance Committee, and we needed to adjust the charter for a couple of administrative reasons so that we could then ask them to serve on the Audit and Finance Committee. So there were some modest changes made to expand the committee to 7 people and clarify who would be the administrator serving on the committee with them. Any discussion on that item? If not, do I have a motion to adopt the charter?
I move the board adopt the revised Audit and Finance Committee charter.
Thank you.
So moved.
If there's no other discussion, can you call the vote?
All those in favor?
Aye?
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
So then with that, we are now ready to appoint members to that committee for 3-year terms. Is there any discussion about the candidates that we spoke with last meeting?
I felt like all 3 were strong and would be valuable assets to the committee, and that's one of the main reasons why we wanted to change the charter, was so that we could offer slots to all 3. Mr. McNamee, who's already served, and then the 2 new who we, have the option to appoint.
It's good to see Mr. McNabney be able to continue,
Yes.
provide some continuity. All right, anything else? Someone want to make a motion regarding the appointments?
I move the board appoint Dean Bullenweider, Stephen Spencer, and Lucas McNamee to serve on the Audit and Finance Committee.
Second.
All right, if there's no other discussion, will you call for the vote?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
The next item we have this evening is the Facility Master Plan update. And Dr. Tucker, are we asking the folks from Hollis Miller to?
Yes, we've got 2 guests from Hollis and Miller here this evening to share an update as to where we stand on the many projects going on in the district. Appreciate Kirk Horner and Kevin Nelson for being here. We'll turn it over to them for their presentation, which is also contained in board docs as far as your items this evening. So, Kevin?
Well, thank you everyone for having us here tonight. We're always happy to come meet with the board and give you an update if we can. Real quick, we're just going to have to grab my presentation off the jump drive, so give us one quick second. Apologize for that delay. So it's been a while since I've been in front of you all, and had a very busy summer, as I'm sure all of you had too. And so kind of our objectives tonight are just to bring everyone up to speed. We're going to review a little bit of where we've been and kind of where we've been going this summer. So if you have questions or comments, please stop me and we'll kind of just work through what we've got going on here. So if you kind of remember, you probably have seen this funnel diagram. Steve maybe hasn't, but I think the rest of you have. But remember, we're talking general to specific as we work through the process. And so back in August of 2012, we were big picture. We were definitely generalizing, we were dreaming, we were putting together what we wanted to do in that master plan process. Since then, we've worked down all the way to now we're building stuff, we're in construction. So January 2014 through March 15 is kind of our construction piece of the first phase of the master plan. And then after we kind of go through that review of the facility master plan, we're going to show some updates on the construction of phase 1. So if you think back to kind of as we were looking at master plan, we had the innovation task force. These were some objectives that we looked at. So we had the inevitable book study, talking about the changing of educational paradigms. We talked about school facilities and how, you know, what we've done in the past was no longer sustainable with construction of schools and how that was taken care of. We also talked about growing districts. Liberty has 300 new students every year. Those are some challenges that we had to address, and how are we going to deal with that within the master plan, kind of long-range planning. And then also sustainable staffing. How are we maintaining those buildings and moving forward with educating our students? From there, we looked at kind of our current model. If you remember, at that point, we were at 11,500 students. We had 1.9 million square feet of educational space in the district. And so if we looked at that model of what we've been doing, we have the as-is column, and we're projected to be about 14,300 students, which if you take that same 172 square foot per student, that was going to put us at 2.4 million square feet of educational space needed. Kind of go down the chart a little bit there. That looked at a projected cost of $97 million. Again, we knew that wasn't sustainable. What could we do to reduce that cost? So we looked at the as-is model minus 10%, down to 154 square feet per student. That takes us to a total of 2.2 million square feet. Projected cost, $51 million. So again, that was kind of where we were at, trying to find some savings. So savings of $44 million just on building square footage alone. We also looked at utility expense savings by reducing that square footage, and also operations and maintenance savings by reducing that square footage. From there, we kind of came up with these 5 goals. We talked about one-to-one initiatives at the high school. We talked about identifying expansions in the elementary and high school levels. We talked about initiating the district's first pilot school and what that might look like. Looked at aligning staffing percentages, looking for efficiency on staffing, and then also what are our opportunities for Northland CAPS. So kind of quick review, 11 months. We started in August 2012, long-range plan begins. We look at the influences inevitable with that book study and kind of how that guided us to the changing paradigms. In February 2013, we set some academic and financial sustainability goals. And then in April, we started engaging Vision 2020 and trying to gain as much input as we possibly could, not only from the district itself, but the community, students, all stakeholders. In May and June, we looked at discussing budgets and concepts. What is this going to start to look like? And then in July, we were looking to kind of get approval for how we were going to proceed. Real quick, we showed this slide before, but in that time period where we were gaining input, we were talking to as many people as we could, giving people as much opportunity as they could to influence. We had nearly 100 different meetings, ways to engage the community, ways to engage our staff. So we did our best to try to provide opportunity where we could. From there, we developed the facility master plan. And you can see here on the left, we had a phase 1 of about $30 million, a phase 2 of about $28 million, and then some other private funding things across the bottom. So what we're going to be looking at a little bit later is those phase 1 pieces from the bond issue. Also, we talked about, when we were setting that dollar amount for the bond issue, kind of what are our tolerances. And so if you remember the graphic on the left, we have this triangle, and at each point, we have something very important to what we're doing. So we've got student growth. We know that's a given. We've got 300 students coming every year. We've got tax tolerance. That's pretty much a given, too. So when you take student growth and tax tolerance as our givens, the top one, the purple one, project scope, is what we had to adjust to be able to stay within that budget. So on the right, you can't read it, but it's just a representation of where that budget landed and what those projects were. And we'll look at those here in just a second. So again, that was a really quick, brief review of kind of what we did. Again, it was a 11, 12-month process, 100+ meetings, but just kind of quick remind everyone where we've been. So we go back to our funnel diagram, and we realize we've been through a majority of that top broad spectrum, and we're really funneling down. We're in construction. You guys have seen it around town. We've got construction going on all over the place. Been a very exciting summer here in Liberty. So quickly, we're going to go through kind of each of the projects. First one up that I'm going to discuss is Kellybrook and Morin Hills. And our goal there was to add 4 classrooms and get a little bit of flex instruction space there if we could. If you know anything about Kellybrook and Morin Hills, they're the same identical plan yet mirrored. So both schools have the same solution, just mirrored. And nearing completion. We're going to be ready for school to start. So those are some recent construction photos there. And Universal Construction, along with the subcontractors, are moving fast and furious to make sure we're ready. Lewis and Clark, we had a classroom addition. This one had had one alternate. So our base bid had the 4 classrooms and the flex space. We were able to take the alternate for the additional classroom and the restrooms there at Lewis and Clark. In addition to the classroom addition, we also revamped the entire circulation in the parking lot. So where buses and car riders are coming, all that is reconfigured so we can get more car riders on our site, helping with the safety and the circulation on those public streets. Shoal Creek. The plan on the screen actually is missing the classroom alternate that we were able to accept. We were actually able to add 13 classrooms to Shoal Creek. Again, that allows us to remove the trailers off site. Pretty exciting thing, I think, to be able to get all those students back in the building. And in addition to the 13 classrooms, we have flex instruction space there in the middle and some restrooms. We're also able to go out onto the site, reconfigure some of our site circulation. Trailers are gone, so now we have that open space to kind of get buses in and out there, again, helping our arrival and dismissal of our students. All right, this building here that we're in, get it to advance for me. Again, our objective here was to free up 650 Conister to become the pilot school, or what we now know as EPIC. And so this being an office building with Liberty Academy on the first floor, we were able to reuse as much as we possibly could, and that was kind of our goal here, is to get the move to happen as efficiently, as frugally as we possibly can, so we can free up 650 Conister. So again, we created this space here that we're in. We had a lot of existing offices that we were able to reuse, and so much of what you see here is more of a cosmetic carpet paint upgrade. Epic Elementary, so this is the old District Administration Center, and I don't know if any of you have had a chance to walk through that building recently, but it's a pretty dramatic change from the way it used to be. Along with this building, we reuse as much as we possibly could, and trying to be as fiscally responsible as we could. Every door in that building was in that building before. We moved them around, we reconfigured them, reused as much as we could. But I think once you walk in that space, you'll be surprised. To me, it's pretty exciting to see the transformation. But this will have 350 students, and it will, one piece kind of the construction that won't be ready, just so everyone knows, is the kitchen won't quite be ready, but it's going to be really close. So we're moving fast and furious to make sure that one's ready to go. And keep your eye out on Kansas City Star. There may be an article coming out soon. It's exciting stuff to come with Epic. Now let's move to the high schools. These are some quick examples of what we did for some interior renovations at Liberty High School. So the 2 plans on the left are some spaces that could have possibly be better utilized within the high school, and so we're creating some flex instruction out of those spaces. Again, if we can provide a very different type of environments for different sizes of groups, again, that helps give them flexibility on instruction. On the right, the top image, that's an example of where we're going to take some lockers out of one of the corridors. And we're hearing that more and more students don't use their lockers anymore. So how can we reuse that space? So the top right, we're going to test out an area at Liberty High School where we take the lockers out and we put in a counter with some benches, we call them learning ledges, a place where I can pull up my laptop maybe me and one other person can work on a project, or even by myself. And so again, trying to get instructional space, educational space out of that circulation. The picture on the bottom, there's a corridor at Liberty High School where we're kind of dog-eared and we've got a kind of an open space on the corner. We're going to put a small learning stair in there. It's going to be a place for medium-sized groups to gather, also even social time. So we're kind of creating useful space out of the corridor there. The main piece, or the biggest piece you'll see at Liberty High School, is the gym addition. And within this, we call it the gym addition, but really we're gaining 8 instructional spaces out of this addition. We're able to pack in a lot of, more than just PE. We're doing a lot of different things for instruction with this space. The plan that you see up there is showing the main basketball court and the bleachers extended for 1,600. We also have events lobby and restrooms to support the athletic functions and things that happen within that space. But we also have locker rooms, we have a training room, we have a learning stair, which you'll see here a little bit, that is not just circulation, we're learning on that. We can have small lectures on there, we can do a lot of things throughout the day when we don't have crowds coming up and down it. This is the main floor with the bleachers retracted, so we've got 2 cross courts, again, 2 instructional environments with the 2 cross courts on the main floor. If we move up to the second level, around the main gym, we've got a walking track, another instructional space. We've got an aerobics room, and we've got a cardio room. Again, more instructional opportunities there. And then off to the left, we've got a concessions area that's going to double as sports marketing during the day. So again, we're combining as much uses as we possibly can to be efficient with that square footage. You start to see the learning stair, and then above learning stair, we have it's about the size of a half a classroom. It's a flex instruction room, a small instructional space as well. So here are some design development renderings of the space. This is as you walk in the main doors of the gym addition. So this would be kind of your events lobby with the learning stair to the right. This is looking back towards the learning stair and the trophy case with the flexion instruction up above the learning stair. Again, looking back at the learning stair and the main doors to the gym. Here we're inside on the walking track, looking down at the gym, and also the glass in the middle of the picture is the aerobics and the cardio spaces. Another image of the same. And then here's the exterior. So again, trying to work with the material palette and the colors that are on that existing building, but yet give it kind of a new modern feel. And so the silver box there towards the left is the main entry with the flex instruction up above. And then we've got integrated in with the Blue Jay graphics, we've got some blue LED lights. So it'll tie back to the main entry with our blue neon. And then hard to see with the lights on here, but that's a night shot of what that might look like on an event evening. All right, that's Liberty High School. So now we're going to move to Liberty North. And our scope here was a 2-story classroom addition. And those of you that know the story of Liberty North, it was always designed as a phased high school. And so there was always intended to be another classroom wing where we're adding on to right now. But since the building was originally designed, we've kind of changed the way we teach and changed the way we want to do things. So it is a new design for this Class 2-story classroom. Up on the screen is the main level. This is mostly science focused, except there's one different thing. We switched up the way the science labs are. Now the 2 brown squares are traditional science classrooms like what's in the rest of the building, and you'll see we've got a lab piece and a lecture piece. In an effort to be as efficient with our square footage and flexible as possible on the new science labs, except for those 2, the lecture piece was pulled away from the lab piece. So the green boxes are our labs. We've got larger shared labs. We can share resources that way. We can collaborate together. We can team teach. And then the yellow boxes are lecture spaces. Again, they're connected to the lab, so it works adjacently just like it would. But if we need, for an hour, we need to have a French class or we need to have a social studies class, we can schedule it in these yellow boxes as a lecture space and dual function that square footage. Also, we've got some teacher planning areas in the orange, and then the learning stairs just above that orange box. again, we talk about trying to get as much instructional space as we possibly can. And so any space, or in a building, any space typically is the corridors. And so we try to turn all the square footage into instructional space. So here in particular, especially on the second level, you'll see the corridors kind of started to dissolve a little bit. We've got classrooms in the yellow boxes around the edge. Orange again is teacher planning. And then in the middle, we've got these small group, basically kind of conference room sizes. We've been calling them incubators. The yellow, or the gray around it is that flex instruction space. Set up that it can be broken up, by the way. The furniture will be arranged so we can have different size groups. But if we need to have a large group of 200 in there, we can, depending on the activity that we want to host. And then the learning stair as well. Off of those, I should also mention, off of those green incubator spaces in the middle, you see kind of a serpentine piece. Those are some counters. So just like we were adding learning ledges at Liberty High School, here we've got some counters with some stools, similar concept. And then here we have some images. So the plan on the left, kind of with the red dot and the triangle, kind of shows you what you're looking at. This is the lower level collaboration space with the learning stair, so you'll walk through this as you enter into the addition. Here's the learning stair. This is an image of one of those incubator spaces or conference room type spaces in the center, surrounded by some flexible furniture in the flex space. Another image of that central collaboration space or flex instruction. This image is looking down as you just start heading down the learning stair. So here again, we also have that learning ledge where we can pull up and we can do small group work or individual work right there. All right, oops. Here we are, let me back up one. I got ahead of myself. This is what the outside of the addition looks like. Again, the glass here that you're seeing on the image is leading into the learning stair, so we'll have lots of daylight flooding into those flexible instruction spaces. And then Liberty Academy, I wanted to show you. This was not part of the bond issue projects, but I wanted to show you because it was integral to part of the shell game of moving everyone around, getting everyone into where they needed to be. And so if you recall or are familiar with the Blackberry building over by the middle school, we took this space, which was designed as retail on the first level and office on the second level, a shell space, so we had kind of a blank slate to work with. And this is kind of what we came up with. We've got most of the administration function on the lower level, or the first level in the purple. Long-term suspension is the yellow. I'm talking about the plan on the left. Long-term suspension is the yellow. And then the gray area is all flex instruction. Pink is restrooms. And then as you go upstairs, we've got our classrooms and our art and science room, and some flex instruction in the middle. So across the bottom is some pictures. Pretty exciting. We were able to combine all the classrooms together with some sliding barn doors. That way they can team teach if they want to. They can make larger classrooms if they need to. And then adding that writing surface on those barn doors as well. So that is Liberty Academy. Thinking. Going the wrong way, sorry. That's all I had for you guys. A quick update, please, if there's questions, comments.
So Kevin, can you recap timeline a little bit? There were 4 elementary schools, Liberty Academy, the Administration Center, EPIC, and then 2 high schools. Can you tell us, when those should be completed so people know what to expect?
Exactly. So Liberty Academy they've moved in, basically done. The contractors just have a few little odds and ends to finish up. Everything except for the 2 high school additions is planned to be done for school in August. So we've got a lot of projects wrapping up right at the same time here in the next couple of weeks. And then the 2 high school additions are planned to be done in March, April of next year.
And those spaces that pulled out lockers, are those going to be done same time as the addition is done?
Yeah, currently we're trying to evaluate kind of exactly when that happens. It may be something that takes place over Christmas break. We weren't able to get in before school started to really get into those spaces. So we'll be having a conversation as kind of what's our tolerance of construction during school, and how do we want to do that. ideally, we want to be able to get those spaces done while Universal is still there, so before March and April. So really, it's looking like Christmas break is going to be a good chunk to get the heaviest piece of those things done, the loudest stuff, the dirtiest stuff, and then there may be a little bit of working around after hours or something to finish those up.
And there were a couple of times in the beginning when you said that we were able to take an alternate on some of the elementary schools. Can you just talk a little bit about why we were able to do that?
Right. We had set up the budgets, with our base budget, and then we kind of had our wish list or our wants. And so we set it up so that we had the option to buy more if we could. The bids came in very well, and so we were able to go ahead and accept those alternates. We had some money to spend. Working with Carol and kind of what the budget looked like, we were able to choose to select those alternates. And so, all being said, we had classroom alternate at Lewis and Clark and Shoal Creek that we were able to add value to those projects. Also, the track at Liberty North was going to be an alternate, and we were also able to accept that one. So we were very lucky to have kind of the ability to take those additional scope pieces on.
Okay. And some of that wasn't that they just came in as a good bid, but there was some negotiation.
Sure, certainly. Yeah, with anything, it's kind of like that triangle diagram. We've kind of got to play that negotiation and figure out what are our priorities and kind of what is the best use of the money.
As an aside, but also related, just for informational purposes, from an enrollment standpoint, we continue to realize increases in our enrollment at this point. So we're right at, as of last week, 250 new students to the district, and with
Already enrolled for the
several
fall.
weeks to go in terms of new students to Liberty Public Schools. So we're keeping in that pattern as projected.
So that number would tell us we're going to end up more than 300 this year.
Could potentially, yeah.
I believe there's new parking space on the north side of Epic Elementary. Will that be done by the time school starts? Because I know there's no busing involved with Epic Elementary.
Right, it definitely is planned to be done in time. Part of the reason for that extended lot at Epic is to get as much car stacking as we possibly can onto our site, so that we don't have cars backing up on Conister.
Okay.
And yes, it is planned to be done at the same time, so hope for no rain.
That's right.
It has to be done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Other questions, comments?
So is there anything at Liberty Middle School planned for the space still?
At this time, no. When we accepted the bond issue budget, Liberty Middle got pushed down on the priority list, and it was not, it was listed as an alternate. So at this point, we have not initiated design on that project. It's still in conversation. We have a couple of things that we still need to put out to bid on the high school. I think we'd be good to see how those bids come in and reevaluate before we would move forward on the middle school.
But it would be the next project on tap.
Yeah, it
once
would be
those
the next one
revenues
on the
are
list.
freed up.
Mhm.
But we do also have some space in terms of time and
Yeah.
student population.
That's another piece of it, evaluating where we ended this last year and then seeing where we begin. Because I think currently, as of our last number, it was around 674, 675, with the core capacity of that building built out to 800 students, I believe. So you certainly don't want to wait till you get to 800. You want to plan ahead of time, but we do have some wiggle room there.
Right, that building was not busting at the seams like
Yeah,
some of the
correct,
others.
like some of the other sites.
Right, which is why it became a lower priority.
Exactly.
Anything else?
Very good, thank you.
All right,
Thank you,
thank you
Kevin.
guys, always great to be here,
Thank you, Kirk, as well.
So the Liberty Schools Foundation agreement, Jeremy, are you taking that one? or are you
Yeah,
gonna
just to
ask?
provide some backstory there, I appreciate Kent Peterson for being here this evening. You have the agreement presented to you as of our last meeting. That was the charge to the district to negotiate and work with the foundation. So our council, as well as the foundation's council, has been working tirelessly over the last several weeks. So we have the agreement to present to you this evening for approval.
And the essence of that agreement is that the foundation is going to hire.
It clarifies, in terms of the executive director position, the foundation's responsibility as well as the district's, in which the district agreed on the concept of employing the individual, but then being reimbursed by the foundation. for salary and benefits, with the exception of medical, vision, and dental. That would be the district's piece in respect to that. So the agreement has been vetted with the foundation. I believe their meeting is tomorrow evening. Appreciate Kent Peterson for being here this evening for that, his ability to answer questions as well, should the board have any questions of him. The next steps pending your approval would be for the district to move forward with the logistics of posting and facilitating the hiring process, but really leaving that to the foundation in walking through that interview process and selection process over the coming weeks.
But district HR will be overseeing that
Logistically,
that
yeah, as far
process
as
to make sure that
facilitating that
we're going through the
process.
steps to protect
Exactly.
the district from
Exactly.
any issues.
On a side note, the position will also be housed in this building, in the District Administration Center, on the first floor. Once all of our renovations have settled, that person will be housed out of this building.
Okay.
And that position was housed in the District Administration Center before,
Previously,
so
yeah.
that makes sense.
Any questions or comments about the agreement? Concerns? Okay. Is there a motion to adopt it?
I move the board adopt a cooperative agreement between the Liberty Public School District and Liberty School District Foundation as presented.
Second.
If there's no other discussion?
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries.
So the TIF commission appointment is the next item.
Yes, we have representatives on both the Kansas City as well as the Liberty TIF commissions, and you can see as provided in your information this evening. On behalf of the district, in terms of district administration, Stephen Anderson serving in that capacity. From the board table, Angie Reed is being recommended for that position, with Scott Connor serving as the alternate. The Kansas City itself requires a resolution showing action by the Board of Education. So that's the recommendation for this evening.
So the recommended action is I move the Board of Education of Liberty School District herein approves the appointment of Angie Reed and Stephen Anderson, Scott Connor as alternate to represent the district on the Tax Increment Financing Commission of Kansas City, Missouri, and all matters relating to TIF plans, TIF plan areas, TIF projects, and all amendments thereto, which affect in part or in whole areas within the boundaries of the district. Said appointments are for 1 year from date of appointment. And the two people that we send as the designate and the alternate will also then serve Liberty as well.
They serve in the same capacity on the Liberty side.
But no resolution
Correct.
required.
No resolution necessary.
Okay. Motion to
So
that
moved.
effect?
So moved.
Thank you.
What you said.
Second.
And if there's no discussion, we'll sign Angie and Scott up for something in absentia.
That's right.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
All right, we're up to the point of the meeting where we get the reports from administration, academic services report, and Marley Williams is going to provide it
Thank
for
you,
us.
yes. On behalf of Academic Services, it is our pleasure to publicly welcome Dr. Coram to Liberty Public Schools and to the team. It has been a pleasure to work with her, get to know her in the past few weeks. A couple of highlights from Academic Services. It is posted in board docs, but you have the first ever edition of the Academic Services Continuous Improvement in PD Plans. We are very proud to present this work to you, as it suggests systems processes. And it has been an undertaking, but it is one that has been worthwhile, and we're looking forward to it guiding our work for the coming year. The final thing that I would highlight for you is that tomorrow the Liberty Leads Conference begins at Liberty North High School. George Couros presents beginning at 9 a.m. 9 to noon, he gives a keynote. And then on Wednesday, we have Scott McLeod and Caitlin Tucker and Paul Anderson. And then we close on Thursday with Will Richardson. So we would welcome any and all of you who would be able to stop in for a bit of that time and see those presenters. You have the Academic Services Board report, and we would entertain collectively any questions that you have regarding those items.
The improvement plan was a hefty document. I chose not to
It's a
print
few
it
pages.
personally.
I printed only once, so
But impressive work, and it's so exciting to see.
consistency and.
Measurable
Yes.
improvement goals.
Thank you.
Human Resources Report is up next. Bob provided a document in board docs, but.
Yeah, Dr. Vogelaar is on vacation this week, so you have his report contained within your packet. One thing that I did want to point out coming up next week is the Network for Educator Effectiveness Training. Keeping in mind that we have entered into a cooperative with the University of Missouri as far as their network that they've created. Training will convene Monday and last for a period of 3 days. If you'll recall, what we had done was identified principals and assistant principals to walk through that training with teachers. So it identifies the tool to be utilized for evaluating teachers. Another piece to that is that administrators are also expected to be evaluated in accordance with the 7 essential principles. So that is a piece that we'll look to try to fill that gap down the road. Any training is scheduled for next week. Take a look at his report, has some great information and questions. We can certainly follow up with him upon his return.
Okay. Any other comments on that report? The finance report? You're going to join us at the podium, Cindy?
You bet.
Kind of got you hemmed in back there in the corner.
Good evening. There's not a lot of change to report from last month's report that Carol gave you. I do anticipate that we will end the year with a fund balance of 18.99%, which is a little better than what we had anticipated just from the process of people giving money back, not using it. So that is a good note to end the year on. Of course, that's all subject to change once the auditors are in August doing their work. I don't anticipate it. It doesn't typically, but it could. So we should end up somewhere around there. Final assessed valuation data is again anticipated in August, which at that time, hopefully we'll get it in time to have ready for the tax rate hearing. We will post the tax rate whether we have it or not based on the June information that we have, but we still anticipate that we will have the slight increase in assessed valuation, and so that's also good news. Westbrook and Company began auditing in June for their preliminary information. They will be back the last week of August, or actually August 18th, to complete their audit. They will be here the whole week. And that usually goes pretty well these days, so we are anticipating having a good audit again this year and are excited that they're coming back. That's the extent of my report. We did have a donation from the Star Optimist International, $700 to the Necessities Closet. We thank them for their donation. And if you have any other questions, I would entertain them.
On a legislative piece to add to Cindy's report, keep in mind we continue to watch the vetoes and the veto session, which will likely occur in September, as far as the finality of that and what the state's going to do to us from that funding piece as it relates to the proration factor. So that piece is still out there looming, and certainly listening and hearing from DESE as to their anticipation of what that's going to look like. So more to come on that.
And there's
Right.
potential for wild variations, right?
We've seen several scenarios,
Right.
so we'll look to see how that impacts the FY15 budget.
Right. For now, we're sitting tight until we hear anything. We
Yeah.
just don't know how to go.
No changes.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you. So the operations report.
Any updates to the
Any
Things are operating.
You're going to fit right in.
And a lot of that mirrors what Hollis and Miller shared as far as facilities and kind of the process there. So appreciate Denise Seaver in helping put that together as Steve transitions. So.
We'll allow you to build on that next month.
Great. Appreciate it.
All right, superintendent report.
To capture it in one word, it's all about transition. A sense of transition, transitioning myself and others to the district and trying to allow things to go smoothly. Appreciate Hollis and Miller and being able to connect with people like them and groups that serve the district and getting to know them and their relationship as well as just stakeholders in general. So you've got our information presented in the superintendent's report. Any particular questions that you have, would certainly entertain them at this time.
And I remember seeing a long laundry list of transition meetings and
Yes.
activities you had. The community is familiar with the coffees on Thursday mornings. Is that something that you are going to continue?
As part of the transition plan, I listed in the report kind of the communication pieces that we're able to work with in terms of our Director of Communications, looking to continue the community partners meetings, coffees with the community as well, and just really seeking out opportunities to get to know people and groups, be it civic or business organizations, in terms of just making myself more familiar with Liberty. So looking for lots of opportunities to do just that. We've met with internal and external stakeholders, members of our executive leadership team, our district leadership team, looking forward to getting with principals. We're able to do some school visits earlier in the spring and continuing that as school resumes and kids are in our hallways and classes. So that will be kind of the process of transition really as of first semester, through first semester. And we'll report back to the board in the culminating report.
Great. Well, and ask the community to reach out to you as well as
Yes.
you step into this role.
Yeah.
There's a lot of institutional memory out in our community that will help things go smoothly.
Definitely.
The upcoming meetings for really the next year are posted. I did note and put on my calendar a couple of items coming up real quickly here, the new teacher orientation and all-staff convocation, with the first day of school being August 13th.
That's right.
We're back.
I know, we're back.
Any comments or adjustments or relative to the scheduled meetings we need to note?
You'll also notice work sessions reconvening as of October. We looked at years past and when that occurred, so you have those built back in along with sending evites so that you can put those on your calendar as you're able to attend.
Great. Board committee reports. Have there been any board committee meetings that need to be updated? All right. Any board remarks as we wrap up this first meeting of the fiscal year?
Uneventful summer.
All right. In that event, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move that we adjourn.
I'll second that one. If there's no discussion?
All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.